So, have you ever stopped and just wondered, how did we get here? I don't just mean you and me, I mean all of this. This world of ours with skyscrapers and smartphones and democracies, well, it didn't just pop into existence. It was actually forged in this incredible chain reaction of revolutions. Revolutions in how we think, how we govern, and how we build things that completely remade the planet.
It really does seem like an impossible jump, right? From a world of kings and serfs to, well, to today. The answer, it turns out, is in a series of huge, dramatic shifts that didn't just change the map, they totally rewired how we see ourselves and our place in the universe. We went from a world where your destiny was set in stone to a world that we felt we could actually build ourselves.
And this right here is the core of that change. On one side, you've got the medieval world, guided by faith, locked into a rigid social ladder where your birth decided your entire life. But on the other side, you have the modern world, driven by reason and this absolutely radical idea that all people should be equal, that you have rights just because you're human.
Okay, so our story, it doesn't start with a big battle or a famous king. Nope, it starts with an idea. A quiet little spark of new thinking that would eventually grow into a fire that set the entire world ablaze.
This was the very first domino to fall. It's called humanism, and it basically turned everything upside down. See, in a world that was completely obsessed with the afterlife, suddenly the focus swung over to human potential, to art, to science, and to what we could accomplish right here, right now, on Earth. It was this profound statement that, you know what? This life matters.
And this created what you could only call a perfect storm. You had all this ancient knowledge being rediscovered right at the exact moment a brand new, revolutionary technology, the printing press, came along to spread it like wildfire. That combination then fueled a religious reformation that for the first time ever really challenged the absolute power of the church.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it led to a huge change in how people thought. People started to believe that they could figure out the world using their own minds, using logic, without just blindly taking the word of a priest or a king. The age of questioning had officially begun.
And you know what? Once you start questioning religious authority, it's a very short hop to start questioning political authority too. That little intellectual spark was about to turn into a massive political firestorm.
Thinkers during the Enlightenment, guys like Rousseau, they put into words what a lot of people were starting to feel. They basically argued that these old systems, absolute monarchs, lords, all that inherited power, it wasn't just unfair, it was completely unnatural.
This led to a whole new, totally radical idea about where power comes from. Instead of flowing from God down to a king, they argued that real, legitimate power had to flow from the people up to the representatives they choose. Suddenly, the state wasn't the king's private property anymore, it was a tool for the citizens to use.
And this was not just talk. This whole idea of power to the people just exploded onto the world stage, first in America, and then just over a decade later in France. For the very first time, entire nations were being built not on the divine right of a king, but on the undeniable rights of every single person.
All right, so we've got new ways of thinking. We have brand new forms of government. The stage was now perfectly set for the third great revolution, and this one would change the very fabric of daily life for literally everyone on the planet.
It all kicked off in Great Britain. You see, it had this unique mix of everything you'd need. Tons of coal in the ground, a lot of money coming in from its colonies, and new farming techniques. All of that together created the perfect incubator for an industrial explosion.
And the pace of change was just breathtaking. Seriously, one invention just led to the next, creating this incredible cascade of innovation. The steam engine, though, that was the real game changer. It was a power source you could put almost anywhere, and it directly led to the rise of the factory.
And the result of this factory boom? It was a total reorganization of human life. For thousands of years, almost everyone lived and worked out in the countryside. But then, suddenly, in just a couple of generations, millions of people were on the move, flooding into these brand new, crowded industrial cities to find work.
But this revolution, it wasn't just about steam and steel, no way. It forged an entirely new economic system, industrial capitalism. And with it came new social classes, massive global supply chains, and a world where things could be mass-produced on a scale that was just unimaginable before.
So how does all this tie together for us today? Well, the legacy of these three interconnected revolutions, it's not some dusty old history. It's the world you're living in right now.
You can see a really clear line connecting them all. The intellectual revolution,
It gave us science and the idea of the individual. That, in turn, paved the way for the political revolution, which gave us democracy and human rights. And both of those together set the stage for the Industrial Revolution, which created the global, tech-heavy urban world we all know today.
I mean, really think about it for a second. The belief that you have a right to your own opinion, the fact that you can vote for your leaders, the actual smartphone in your hand, every single one of those things is a direct inheritance from this explosive period of change. We are all, in a very real way, children of these revolutions.
And that brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? This whole process of radical, world-changing revolution, it didn't just stop in the 19th century. So, as we look around at the world today, what do you think the next great revolution is going to be?